What's going on, podcast listeners? My name is Michael Chernow. I am a restaurateur and lifestyle entrepreneur, and I am truly obsessed with living a life better than yesterday through wellness, fitness, and good vibes. I've always wondered if the drive to succeed is something we are born with, or if it's something that is made over time through grit, drive, and perseverance. I get to answer that question exactly, and the goal of this podcast is to talk with people that have absolutely crushed it in life and have inspired me to do the same. This is Born or Made. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Born or Made podcast. Super fired up about our guest today. This is a really interesting guest, and her name is Joy Dushey. She's an innovative, holistic lifestyle guide. She focuses on a bunch of things in the more esoteric way of thinking about wellness, specifically focusing on breathwork. She's sort of known as a breathwork master of sorts. But she really has a lot of things in her practice, from breathwork to Reiki to even remote Reiki, which I definitely want to learn about as well. Sort of distance healing, which is such a cool thing to learn about. I'm really excited to introduce Joy to the Born or Made podcast. Welcome to the show, Joy.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here, and thank you for that beautiful intro.
For sure. Joy, you're the founder of The Joyful Approach. You also have a podcast of your own called the Methodology Podcast. Why don't you give us just a brief rundown on who you are and what you do and how you ended up in the seat you're in today?
Thank you. Who am I? I wear a lot of hats. I'm a holistic and spiritual guide, and I facilitate with holistic coaching and breathwork modalities, esoteric modalities like Reiki, as you said, and crystal healing, and lots of different forms of esoteric modalities. But essentially, I create a space for people to come and heal something in their life that is causing an imbalance, or something that is, wherever they're feeling stuck. And I love to bring people together as well in groups, as well as one-on-one coaching, and, create just Sangha, which is a form of community for people to share in a deeper way, for people to learn a little bit more about themselves and what's going on under the surface. And I'm also a mom. I'm, and a grandmother today. I'm 47 years old. I've been on
Congrats.
This journey. Yeah, thank you. So I have a lot of, I have a lot going on in my life, and yet it's a beautiful place to be here, and also a student of life that continues to seek and grow, every day myself.
So the podcast is called Born or Made. Basically what we try to do here is we try to ask the nature nurture question. I speak to entrepreneurs, athletes, just extraordinary people, spiritual guides now, which I'm really excited to have on the show. But really the question is, are we born with an inherent ability to do what we do, or are we made over time? I want to share a story with you, because what you just said to me reminds me very much of my grandmother. My grandmother's name, her name is Chick, little Italian woman, and she was a healer. She was a born healer. My grandmother was, from as early as I can remember, a clairvoyant. She was a physical and crystal healer. She owned a crystal shop. She was deeply invested in meditation. She meditated for hours every day. She was the most balanced, peaceful person I've ever encountered in my life. She has the deepest impact on me from all the people I've encountered. She has been truly the person that I owe a lot of my spiritual and open-minded mindset towards. She's just an incredible person. And so it was really nice. Like I felt this connection when you were just talking, because it just reminded me of my grandmother. I would imagine that you were born to do what you do. I feel like that's probably where your head stands on that one. Would you say?
Yeah. Oh, I just got like waves of chills as you like were talking about your grandma, and I just felt like just a beautiful, peaceful energy that, is just so lovely. So thank you for sharing. I love to hear about, women especially that were invested in, far out esoteric healing from back then. And it's so beautiful to feel that energy. Absolutely. I mean, I love the topic of nature versus nurture. And I question, I go back to my earlier days now and I say, wow. I mean, I remember being amongst wherever I was brought up, and the furthest concepts of nature and the cosmos and um, healing with crystals and all of that was not introduced to me until later in my life. But there was this curious, like a rebellious side of me that was very curious about the world outside of the world that I was raised in. And so that's how I know I was definitely born to do what I do today and to share these, I guess, gifts.
Yeah, I mean, when I hear about these modalities and these sort of alternative ways or paths of healing, I'm so receptive to it as an individual. I've always been open to exploring, different and unique ways of being better on a daily basis. I think that anything that one can do to be a better version of themselves, like why not give it a go? And I've got a lot of experience there because I spent a lot of years in active addiction, where being a better version of myself was not at all on the path with me. It was the exact opposite. So since I've come out of that a long time ago, I've spirituality has just been a massive part of my life. And I don't know if it wasn't for my grandmother, teaching me about Buddhism when I was a child, and my little sister and I running around her house in Queens singing Nam Yam Ho Renge Kyo. my mother and father rolling their eyes. I don't know if I'd be as sound and balanced and open-minded as I am today. I guess the one of the questions that I have to kick this conversation off is, I imagine that you encounter a lot of people that are looking to be better and or at least balance themselves out. Mm-hmm. How hard is it to convince someone who's not open to spirituality or to sort of just these, alternative ways of bettering themselves? How hard is it to convince them that this is real? And also, do you encounter that many people that are looking to change, that want to try these new things?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing is, I'm never trying to convince anybody. I create the space for someone to find those answers out in the space, right? That we cultivate. So when someone comes to me, they're almost always coming to me because there's something that they're not content with in their life. There's something that they're seeking. They're seeking some way of living that's a little bit better, or maybe finding answers, learning about, there's a spectrum, right? And some people are, just feeling like stuck in their life. Some people are feeling like they're really on the path, but they want to go further. And so I'm creating that space, and I'll ask them a thought-provoking question so that they can find that answer. Now, I love to meet someone where they're at. I don't, there are people that have been practicing spirituality and have dabbled in some of these esoteric modalities. And there are people that have never meditated a day in their life. There are people that, don't really know the difference between Doritos and, a granola bar. Like there's, and I love to meet someone who, wherever they are on the spectrum, and then take them through a very gentle approach so that we can start slow. And then after they start to feel like they're more curious about, something that I have mentioned, and then they want to try that out, then I'll take them and start introducing these, more evolved ways of approaching spirituality.
What do you typically start somebody with if they're I mean, I would imagine that the majority of the people that are coming to you already walk in with an open mind. I mean, I'll share something with you that was a really interesting story for
Mm-hmm.
me. About 7-8 years ago, I'm an athlete, and 7-8 years ago I had a catastrophic injury. I had a ruptured L4 L5 disc, where a fragment of the disc came out and landed directly on my sciatic nerve. You could see it in the MRI, and I was in excruciating pain. And the only thing that would make the pain go away, for the most part, was if I was lying on my stomach with 3 pillows under my stomach and my body sort of just like relaxed like that. Other than that, excruciating pain from my lower back all the way into my toe. I mean, it was just unbelievably terrible. I did not want to get surgery, and all the doctors that I went to said, you need to open up your back. And I was, 32 or something like that. And I was like, I don't have any interest in doing that. And so I went down the path of all the different, ways of potentially healing myself. And I did a lot of Qigong, and I did a lot of meditation. Somebody introduced me to this one form of healing. And it was in New York. And it was I forgot the doctor's name, but it was this, it was a place in Midtown. You walk into the room, and there was about 8 massage beds, and people were lying on the beds. And this doctor was walking around and kind of playing. It looked like he was like playing an instrument above their bodies, but these people were responding in the most unbelievable ways. And like they would touch, he would like go across their like go up and down their spine, and their body would move with his hands, but they were face down. And I was sort of blown away, and I was like, this is not, I can't, like, I'm open-minded, but this is too much. Like, they were screaming and wailing and crying, and I was just like, oh my God, this is too far out. Anyway, I got down on the bed and I lied down because I was like, I'm desperate, and nothing really happened for me. And after the session, he said, listen, man, he's like, I'm a normal guy. I have this talent and this ability. I don't know what to tell you outside of the fact of like, you can never come back here again and chalk it up, or you can come back in tomorrow with an open mind and actually let this happen. And so I went home that night, and I said, I'm desperate. I'm in so much pain. I'm crying. And I went back in the next day with a completely open mind, and I had a true out of body experience. Like, it was like, I felt like I was on drugs. I was like profusely sweating. I really did feel like I was falling down into, it was wild. It was totally, totally wild. And I went back, I went there for like 2 weeks, and I did that with a bunch of Qigong, with this Qigong master down in Chinatown. And ultimately I went back in for an MRI, and the fragment of disc had essentially shifted to the point where they could give me a cortisone shot, and I was able to walk off the table that day. And I couldn't believe it. Right. And I have back issues, but not nearly like, and I don't know, I can't say that all that stuff, it could be coincidence. Right. But I can say that I was open to these experiences, and I had them. And, I don't think it's placebo. Right. I do believe in it. Like I want to ask you about breathing, because I think I think for the listeners, my goal is every single time with this podcast to give people something to actually take home with them, whether it's a piece of advice, whether it's a habit to implement into their lives, or in this case, ideally, it's a breathing technique that people can start to do to get some relief. And if you can share something like that with us, I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, I would love to. I just want to touch on your remarkable story. And I'm just smiling from ear to ear because I'm also an athlete. I've run lots of marathons, and I've suffered for many years with chronic injuries and L4, L5, I know all about that. And, I was actually sharing this with a client the other day, and it was, going for the injections and doing all the, it was just like an endless journey of, and the maintenance and all that stuff that we need to do with the chiropractors and so on. And then it was finally when I was able to connect the emotional pain that I was suffering with that was corresponding to those chakras, the lower chakras, the sacral area, SI joint, all of that. And, just that journey of that connection between mind body was already that awareness, right? Because you had asked, where do I start with somebody, right? Is just having the awareness that there is an emotional component to physical pain. Like if you haven't seen the Heal documentary, I highly recommend everyone going and checking that out, because it sounds like the work that you were sharing with the this doctor or this man that was healing.
I wish I remember
like,
it, because I have actually the book that he wrote in my car outside. Maybe I'll get it before the end of the show, but I would love to be able to share it with you, because it was
yeah, or put it in the show notes. It would be great
Mhm.
as well. Sounds like the work of Rob Wergan, who's incredible too. And I mean, so for me, I suffered, let's say, I would say about 8 months with even IT band syndrome, which is like the most excruciating pain. I couldn't even walk down the stairs. And then I had some Reiki done, and it was unbelievable, because that healed, the Reiki actually healed the IT band syndrome immediately. Like it was just wonderful, healing. But like you said, I believed in it, and I went in with an open mind. So awareness is very important, like having like awareness of what's going on in my life at the same time. There, of course, like running your body down to the ground is going to, it's going to require some nurturing and some care, but at the same time, being aware of what's going on emotionally is, I think, is important too. So let's get into the breathing. Breathing, is essential for us, is vital, right? Okay. Well, we started breathing when we were born, we were breathing efficiently. And I'd say at about like the years of like 3 to 5, our breathing became way more shallow, and we started breathing just like from our upper respiratory, right? So the most efficient way of breathing is from the diaphragm. It's the belly breathing. And this is what I encourage people to do, like with their meditation, to, form some practice of breathing every day, right? So that we can quiet quiet the mind, and just release that busy, we're just like so inundated with so much, and we need to find that time to quiet the mind.
Okay, real quick, I just want to stop you there, because I think it's important. So I agree with you. For someone who's never done it before, when we say you should have some sort of a breathing practice, let's get specific. Let's say how long that practice should be for a newbie, and what that breathing looks like. What is the system?
Okay, great. So for me, I mean, I can meditate for, or breathe for like a 20-minute to 45-minute, obviously, when the more that you do it, the more the easier it is. But let's even start with like 5 breaths a day. For someone that has not practiced this way, like we'll start with like 5 breaths, and then we'll bump it up to 5 minutes. Okay. When 5 minutes becomes so delicious, because you feel so good, bump it up to 10 minutes, so you keep increasing. But I want to just really, I want to start very gentle. So let's just start with 5 breaths. Okay. Now, the way that we breathe is with the diaphragmatic breath, is you're going to inhale through the nostrils as you expand your belly to a pregnant belly. Okay. So you're ballooning your belly outward as you're inhaling through the nostrils. So even if you were to have your hand on your belly, like just like right here, just to feel how this area is really going to expand, right?
Mm-hmm.
As you inhale through your nostrils for 4 counts. So it's breathing in, hold it for 2, pausing for the 2 counts, and then exhale through the mouth as you deflate the belly back towards the spine for 4. So it's 4-2-4. 4, inhaling as you balloon the belly out, hold for 2, and then exhale, deflate for 4. Let's keep doing it. And exhale. Good. Right, so you're just going to allow yourself to close your eyes if you're not, if you're in a place where you can just like close your eyes, let everything become nice and relaxed, and the whole point of this is to release the thoughts, release the mind as much as you can without judging yourself in that time, right? Because people, really shy away from meditating because they think that if thoughts come in, they're not doing it right, which is not the case at all, because we will, as it's so normal to have thoughts, but just keep redirecting your awareness towards the breath, right? In the beginning, it feels really weird. In the beginning, people are like, I can't, like, this feels so strange, So what we're doing is we're training ourselves to breathe this way, to let go of the mind as much as we can, to keep redirecting our awareness back towards the breath. And soon enough, it really feels so relaxing, so calming this is like getting us out of the fight or flight. It's calming the nervous system. It's relaxing and sedating the nervous system, taking us out of anxiety. Right.
I mean, I love that.
I
love that simplicity in the practice. Now, just stripping it back even further, is there a specific time during the day you suggest doing it? And is there a seating position, or can you lie down while you're doing it? Is there like an ideal sort of position?
Okay, these are all great questions. So, like I said, spectrum. If you were my client, I'd like assess, like, okay, is he really, is he somebody that if I tell him that Michael, are you going to commit to doing this 10 minutes a day? And I see that, you're like, you have a million things going on and 10 minutes sounds overwhelming for you. So I'm going to just, take it down a notch, and I'm going to say, like, okay, maybe 5 minutes is a good amount for you, a good prescription. So I always prescribe, a different protocol for, depending on where that person is at, right? Okay, so ideal is first thing in the morning, only because it sets a tone for the rest of the day. People wake up with like, a very anxious mind. They have so much going on and there's so much overwhelm and there's a negative mindset. So if you wake up and you meditate and you create a morning practice, some kind of like really healthy, intentional morning routine, you're going to set yourself up for probably a like more successful day, right? So if you can do it first thing in the morning, that's great. If you're a mom that needs to wake up and put the kids on the bus, whatever, take the kids to school or whatever it is, and it just seems so unrealistic that it's like stressing you out, I'd say wait till there's a time in the day where you're not going to be interrupted. Maybe that's at like 3 o'clock, whenever that is, because the whole point of this is not to create more stress in your life, right? So do it at a time that is, that really suits you. But ideally, I love the morning. As far as, so I like to set my iPhone, my smartphone to a timer. This way you're not distracted with like how long you're doing it for. And you can put go ahead and set your settings to like do not disturb or even airplane mode, and just set your timer. And this way you can really release all the distraction and let go of the sense of time. The other question that you had was it? I forgot.
Like position. Like
position. Yeah, great question. So for me, ideally, what I like to get like the full benefit. So I like to have my feet planted on the ground. I like to feel the ground underneath me. So I'm getting the grounding benefits as well, really feeling the earth underneath my feet, right? Like, and I'm sitting up in a tall position. I'm sitting on a chair or in a meditation cushion, and I'm sitting upright, not too tall and like stiff, and not too slouched and relaxed. That's the ideal way of, mindful breathing practice. But if lying down, if that's going to be something that's going to stress you out, and lying down is easier for you, and you're a real beginner, go ahead and just lie down while you're meditating. That's fine too.
I love
Hopefully
it.
answers the
So we start with 5 breaths, and we ideally can, for the person who's never done this before, I think that's a pretty simple ask. I would empower and truly urge anybody who's listening to this podcast who does not meditate to just commit to that. Make a commitment while you're listening to this podcast to do 5 breaths, 4 seconds in, 2 seconds at the top, and then exhale in through the nose and out through the mouth. And I think that if we just added that to someone's life today, then we've potentially changed someone's life, right? Like, I know for me, meditation has always been part of my journey in wellness and sobriety. And I dip in and out of it. In the 5 minutes, let's just say, is the breathing the same? Do you suggest that 4 in, hold, and is that sort of like a great way to like stop focusing on the externals and count the breaths? Is that like something that's just there for that, or is there a specific reason for why we're breathing in 4 seconds, holding, and then out?
Another great question. I love it. Okay, so ideally what we want to do with this practice is we want to come to the present moment, right? We want to release the past. We want to let go of the anxious, future thought forms that we're creating in our mind that are causing anxiety, right? And we want to just come to the here and now, come to the present moment, and just relax our nervous system and just let go of, that very noisy mind, right? So with the counting of the breath, you're doing 2 things. First, you're training yourself with this new form of breathing, right? And then you're going to also use it almost as like a mantra. Like, there is a way of breathing, like TM, Transcendental Meditation, where people use mantra. Like, so they're just reciting a mantra that really has no meaning over and over and over and over. And what that does, it gets us into this meditative state. So we want to get ourselves in a meditative state. And that's why I'm suggesting that instead of thinking about all the other things that are distracting you from the here and now, use, this counting modality, this technique, okay? What happens is that we wind up getting into the meditative state, right? When we're meditating for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, okay? That we can then we can get into a zone and we start to release the counting. Okay, it's transcending you into that zone of a meditative state. Okay, so for me, I am not counting anymore because I've been doing this for years, right? It's so natural for me. But for somebody that's starting out, they're going to start off counting, and then they can eventually get into that zone where they don't need to count anymore because they're already like, there. Does that?
Yeah, that makes total sense. Because I've been really excited about the Wim Hof style of breathing, and I've been doing that a lot. And I feel like for me, the reason why that's been something that I've actually latched onto is because, I mean, I'm an addict, right? I mean, I'm in recovery, but I am, and I know that I brought that up a few times. But I think that this style of wellness and this style of better living really lends itself to my lifestyle. And I think, just because I'm so open to this stuff. But there's something about the Wim Hof breathing that it's challenging, right? Not only challenging with being quiet, but it's challenging in the fact that, like, you're holding your breath for as long as you can, which is something that I've never tried before. The Wim Hof style of breathing is, you do 30 breaths deep inhale through the nose or the mouth. He doesn't really specify which way you breathe. You're lying down. Most people lie down when they do it. Into the nose or the mouth, right into the diaphragm, and then it comes up into the chest and then back out. And there's no gap between breathing. It's really sort of this circular breathing, and it's either 30 or 40 breaths. And then you do your 30th or your 40th breath, and at the top, you hold. And you hold for as long as you can. And I've done 4 rounds at almost 4 minutes in between rounds of holding my breath. And, my body is I actually don't know the science behind it, but I do know that my body has completely left itself, in terms of just where my mind and my body are connecting. I feel I feel almost weightless.
Yeah.
And then I when I'm done with it, so basically you hold your breath and then you breathe out at when you're done, when you can't hold anymore. And then you breathe back in and then you squeeze really hard. You squeeze in your head and you squeeze in your diaphragm for 15 seconds. And then at the end of that 4th round, I can honestly say that I start moving my hands and my feet, and I've never experienced a feeling like that before, I don't think. It's challenging because you hold your breath, and I'm a competitive guy, so I'm constantly competing with myself. But it's also just this it's just this total full body, mental, physical, spiritual experience that I haven't had with other forms of meditation that I've tried in the past. And I think it's probably always because I've been looking for something with it. I'm actually and maybe I just haven't done it consistently enough, long enough, where my head's not actually, when I meditate, I think of a pole, in my mind, for whatever reason, I've always envisioned sort of those standing coat racks where it's a long rack and it's got a few things at the top where you can hang your hat or hang your coat. And I sort of envision that as a straight up and down thing. And then my thoughts are kind of those hooks that come off the pole. And I don't physically do it, but I just always envision my arm going up, grabbing the thought, boom, putting it back in the center. And that's, for whatever reason, my head's always gone there in meditation. But I have never ever I've never been this is it for me. I just haven't. And it's probably, and I don't know if it's because I just haven't given it a long enough shot, or I've never worked with a real meditation, guide like you, or someone who really is trained in it. I've just sort of listened to things, but I'm so grateful for this, because I think that's such a great, simple way to introduce it to people like me also, that have not just sat in silence and want to really just focus on that.
It's beautiful. I mean, it helped, the way that I was trained, and thank you so much for sharing that. Well, which will segue me into breath work, which is different from what I've just shared with you, this technique of breathing for mindful breathing, which is more passive. And the breath work that I'll talk about is an active meditation that has very transformative benefits. Okay. But just to, share, I don't know what your sport is and what the way that you're, what type of athlete you are. But I was seeing a sports psychologist who actually was the person that helped me tremendously overcome PTSD. And it was through this form of breathing that we were able to shift the nervous system, and rewire my brain. Okay. So it was so fun, because when I worked with him, he just couldn't get over the results, how quick, I was able to, see the results of shifting the architecture of my brain while I was hooked up to a monitor. It was through neurofeedback and biofeedback, which just means that I was being monitored through a computer, and they can actually see my stress levels through through the biofeedback. But he was somebody that worked with the Navy SEALs and understood very much the competitive, performance of an athlete. And he said, you're just such a competitor, and that's why you're able to combat this PTSD so quickly, because you're just channeling all of your competitive, for the fortitude that you have with competing and applying it here. So I totally can understand why you're so drawn and to the Wim Hof form of breathing.
It's interesting that you say that too, because I also have chronic Lyme disease and Bartonella. And, and there was a moment in my life about 6 months where I didn't know what was going on with me. And I thought when Lyme disease is so difficult to pinpoint, especially with regular doctors. So all these symptoms were coming up like, man, every area of my body. I mean, I thought I was dying. There's no doubt about it. I mean, everybody in my life felt the effects of it because no one could tell me what was wrong with me. And I was walking around like a zombie. However, when I found out, thank gosh, to a doctor named Frank Lippman in New York. Do you know Frank?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Frank helped me just to find out that I had chronic Lyme. I've been fine. I think it's because of my competitive nature. I see this doctor now where I moved upstate to upstate New York, and Lyme disease is super relevant up here. There's, lots of people have it. And there's a doctor that only works on Lyme disease that I'm grateful that Frank introduced me to. And he's like, man, you've got some serious Lyme disease and you have 2 different strains of Bartonella. Like, how are you competing in competitions? And I basically was like, I started thinking, I was like, I honestly think that my competitive mindset and my sort of like doer mindset has beat the Lyme disease. Like, I know my body shows that I have it, but I don't give in. And I think that is also, when we talk about sort of mental fortitude, when I ran the marathon in New York City in 2018, and at mile 25-2, I was in Central Park, and you come around this big turn, and I was on pace to hit my target, and I was stoked. And then all of a sudden, in that mile 2, you look around and there's lots of people like on the ground, just like had thrown in the towel.
I know all about it.
Yeah.
I ran it 7 times.
Yeah. So the deal. And so for whatever reason, I had run other marathons that were not nearly as big as New York. But when I was like, oh my gosh, like people are thrown in the towel here, something happened in my mind, my brain, and my quads started to feel tight. And then all of a sudden, I let it happen. My quads seized up completely to the point where I couldn't move. And I was banging my quads, and, I had my name on my jersey. So someone was like, Michael, get up there, good. And then I just said, mind over matter. And boom, my quads released. And, I believe that we have so much power in our minds. So our bodies can endure so much more than we think we can if we change our thinking, right? Like, it's about, for me, I honestly do believe that there's nothing I can't do if I put my mind to it. Nothing. I'm 40 years old. If I said to my wife, hey, I know I'm 40, but I really want to be a surgeon. So I'm going to go to school. It's going to take me about 15 years. But by the time I'm 55, 60, I'll be performing surgery. Like, I genuinely believe that I can go out there and do that, actually. And I think that is such a piece of the life that we just don't talk enough about, that like we have the ability to do whatever we actually want to do. It's all about patience, and it's all about perseverance and open-mindedness, right? Like, you've got to be able to open your heart and open your mind and take the beating of other people telling you that it's not possible. I mean, I've watched people who are dying in front of me 6 months later, competing in life in like the craziest ways possible. So I don't know. I'm so happy that we're on this, that we're talking about this stuff. Let's get into the breath work, because I want to understand the difference between breath work and meditation.
Absolutely. I just love what you just shared. We'll get into that. Okay. So breath work, the alchemical breath work. Okay. So the reason why I have coined it as alchemical breath work, is because it is alchemy. And it's just exactly what you just shared. It's about like taking, like, as you shared, somebody that is, could be dying, and then you can see them like thriving and, performing in 6 months and whatever we decide. So what happens in this form of meditation, it's a more active way of breathing. It's kind of like you're going to a cardio class with your breath, okay? And you're using your breath as a vehicle.
Mhm.
And what we're doing is we're bypassing the conscious mind, okay? Because the conscious mind tells us there's no way that in 6 months, if you were dying and you were diagnosed with, severe Lyme disease or whatever, you're going to be able to run a marathon. That's what the conscious mind says to us. So what we're doing is we're getting past the conscious mind with the breath. It's a 3-part breath. First, we're breathing. It's all through the mouth. We're breathing first in from our lower belly, our lower chakras. Then we breathe in from our heart, okay? And then we exhale through the mouth in a circular pattern of breathing. This is the way it'll sound. It's like, so we're
So
just doing that.
are you breathing into the heart? Is that, so you're
Yeah.
breathing into the diaphragm and then you're breathing into the heart and then you're letting it go?
Yeah, first from the belly, okay? So the belly is where we hold, that's the solar plexus or second chakra. This is where we hold all the trauma, the grief, all the, the lower anger, all these old stored emotions and, negative emotions that have been stored in the body, right? But in our lower region. And then we're opening the heart meridian, right? The heart, the high chest, and we can experience an endorphin release. We can experience that dopamine release. But what we're doing is we're moving stuck energy, whether it's old limiting beliefs, old traumas, conditioning, patterns, addictive behaviors, okay? And we're able to move that energy, and all of a sudden we're experiencing like this big heart opening and this, dopamine release, right?
Okay.
So just getting back, what happens is we're like releasing these patterns of behavior. We're releasing like the things that we've always held on to, and the stuck energy in the body that becomes very stagnant. So it has, the benefits are like endless, because what we're doing is we're releasing just what we thought we couldn't access, right? That's why people do go on these like medicine journeys. They do ayahuasca, all forms of substance to, access their heart and to let go of that stuff that that trauma that we've been holding on to our whole life. So I found this by, not by accident, but it was a complete, like, I just literally, I don't know how it fell into my lap, but I found it one day. I had no idea what I was about to experience. And all I do know is that it healed 20 years of trauma and grief in my life, because I suffered for many, many years, and I sought all modalities of healing. But when I did breath work, this form of breath work, it was like, I can't like, it was completely, it was outer body. Like you start to say about the Wim Hof, like, I had no idea what I had just experienced, but I knew that whatever that was, it was like I felt transformed. And
So
so
okay, this is too good, because we need to break this down. So how do you start? Like, where is it similar setup to the regular meditation stuff?
okay, so not at all. No. The way that these are designed, someone will come to see me. We have a conversation. Usually they'll send in advance, like a little, some intentions, reason why they're coming to see me. And so I do my own, energy meditation just to connect with their energy, because I am an energy healer as well. And I will then have them come in and just, meet them, like I said, where they're at, whatever feels most present. And intuitively, I'll ask a question or a few questions just to get like a scope. And we start this therapeutic, intuitive, conversation. Then I take them inside to the healing room. They lie down on a, massage table that has a biomat with amethyst crystals, and I put on some evocative music. Sometimes it's mystical music. It doesn't really, it's always different and intuitive. And we start with the breath. I get them grounded, and we start this breath work. And the next thing you know, they're somewhere else in different dimensions, because they're leaving their conscious mind. And I'm doing Reiki as they're, also breathing and energy work, and a lot is channeled to me. And I usually, I have some is hands-on manipulation if I feel stuck energy, or if I'm guided to their, to know where to go. But essentially it's really the breath work that is the medicine. And then I have my sound healing, some bowls and gongs. I have my gong and some of that to get them more restorative.
I just got chills when you said that, you're guided, because also my grandmother, her whole thing was that she had spiritual guides throughout her whole life. She said that she had spiritual guides. And I never really asked her what that was. But I guess it's sort of similar to what you have in sort of spiritual guides. Can people do this at home? Can people try this at home?
Yeah. I have, there's an audio that's for sale on my website, thejoyfulapproach.com, that they can purchase. They can absolutely, virtual sessions, people have remarkable results with those as well. But I honestly, I do feel like there's nothing like having someone hold the space for you and have someone guide you through this. Like even me, who I can, I still call David my teacher, or somebody to hold the space for me too. It's such a beautiful luxury to be able to do that. But otherwise, yeah, just purchasing an audio would be the best way to go about it, because I really walk you through it, from the beginning. I give you a very comprehensive intro, how to set yourself up for it. And
I'm definitely going onto your website and buying that, because I'm so interested and eager.
I'll send you one as a gift. If you don't have.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
I just, how long are the sessions typically? Like, how long do you typically have your client breathe?
It depends. For the in-person, they go a little longer. They go with like 80 minutes to 90 minutes even.
Wow.
But yeah, virtual sessions usually around 70 minutes. You can do this for a half hour. It doesn't have to be as long. But I even have sometimes, if there's something very intense going on in your life, just like even doing it for 7 minutes, can really be a big game changer, even 7 minutes. But ideally you want to give it about like 30 minutes. It's wonderful. I have to tell you, collective healing is so powerful. And I love to create these sanghas, these collective healing. A sangha is basically, it just means community, right? So I have these events where I invite people for the in-person, and they're just beautiful. People just sitting around in a circle, talking about something deeper in their life. And then we move into the breath work, the sound healing. And it's just like such everyone's heart is like blown open, and it's just so lovely. So I love to create those too.
Why are so many people, because I would imagine that there's a very small percentage of the population that are open to this style of betterment. There's so few, I'm also like, for me, I'm super comfortable in this conversation, just because I'm a hunter by like I just am. I'm a hunter, and so for me, like lifting up rocks is like how I learn. But like all I think about when I'm talking to you is like, I'm like, gosh, I gotta hook Joy up with my mom, because I would love, my mom is just stuck, and I've done everything in my power to try to give her, I take these long walks every day at 4 o'clock, and I'm born and raised in New York City. So I'm used to walking nonstop. But you know, when the pandemic hit, I moved myself and my family to our house upstate. And like, if you want to walk, you can either have one of these, which is a treadmill under your desk, which is what I have, and you know, I actively make a decision to go out every day at 4 o'clock and walk 5 miles. And on those walks, those are my service walks. So I call up my mother, my family. I call up people that I actually genuinely want to know how they're doing. And that's like the time for me to just be out, walk, and connect with other human beings. I spent a lot of those walks talking to my mom and trying to convince her that she can do whatever she actually wants to do. I mean, she's not old, you know, she's 72 years old and she acts like she's like 100. And I know that she's going to listen to this podcast, and I'm stoked when she hears this because I know that my mom wants it. I came through my mother. What I have is I'm 50% her, you know, she can have it. And I haven't figured out the right solution or the right person to potentially introduce her to open her heart to this stuff. And she knows my she's my grandmother, is my dad's mother. And she always thought that she was hokey pokey, but like she was exposed to it too. So it's not like my mom this is foreign stuff to her. I think that there are so many people that can benefit from this style of work. And it's just such a shame that so many people are closed to it for no reason, you know, like they say when, you know, the reason why little children are able to actually experience spirits is because they're not trained not to, you know, like they're open to everything. And like the experience that as they walk through life is like, everything is new. So there's no like, hey, no, that's not real. And I just feel like not only are we trained to like not believe in anything that you can't touch and feel, but you know, anything esoteric or spiritual for most people are tossed away. And I just don't understand it. There's so much beauty in it. And there's nothing that says it's not real. You know, like, so and there's so many people out there that have had these amazing experiences with it. What does success mean to you in this style, in this place in your life? What does success mean to you?
Oh, what a great question. And very loaded. But for me, success is about connecting with another human and sharing, you know, just the present moment with them. Like for me, that's just like a beautiful, that's success to me. Yeah. You know, it's not, it's how they made me feel, how I made them feel in that moment. I love connecting with humans, no matter where they are, no matter who they are, you know? And so for me, that's, it's a beautiful, experience for me.
What does happiness mean to you?
Happiness is being alive. Being alive and having a chance to be better every day and connecting and sharing and, you know, positive impact, creating positive impact, the ability.
Out of all the different modalities that you practice and also teach and help others with, what have you noticed over the years to be the most impactful for people's healing?
So what was reflected back to me with everything that I do, and I've done a lot, right, was just this past week, for example, I had a group of ladies that I call them my soul tribe. They were 6 women that signed up for this 6-week intensive with the joyful approach, teaching them all the different, you know, tiers of the joyful approach. And so we became a soul family. They continued on even through pandemic, through till today with me. And we came together for a beautiful dinner celebrating one of their birthday. And what was reflected back was I connect people, I bring people together and create community. And it's an enriching place where people feel very safe, and they feel that they can share in a deeper way. And for me, that's just, I'm just creating the space for that, and offering like I love to say, just being, my goal in life is being a transmission of love, like just to share that love and the environment, creating that environment of love and safety so that others can connect and that community can grow and expand and grow and expand. And that's what I feel has been really the root of my vocation.
Being able to bring people together to connect.
To connect and to heal. Yeah.
I think that that's my superpower too. I do. I think that human beings are my power, my superpower, connecting with humans. And I think that, there's definitely an element of like severe people pleasing for me too. Like I definitely want people to be happy around me. I definitely love to make other people happy. And I don't know, sometimes that could kick me bite me in the ass, but it's definitely been a massive part of what's made me successful in my life and in business too. I think being able to bring people together and understand how people tick and how I can potentially help make them feel good about themselves. This has been such a wonderful podcast. When's your birthday?
It's funny. I was going to ask you.
You're October, aren't you?
No, I'm not. I'm actually in Aries. What are you?
I'm a Libra. I'm like, I tend to, I don't know much about the signs, but I do know that like people that I tend to connect with for whatever reason are always a September or October for the most part. I mean, I
have a lot of Libra in my chart. So yeah, there's other, aspects and that you're probably picking up on. But yeah, I felt a lot of synergy. And I was going to ask you if you know about the Enneagram and if you might be a 9 like me. And there's just so many beautiful things about being a people pleaser in the way that we love to, it's a big, generous heart and we care about others. And I can see that that's very genuine for you, that there's a really beautiful, pure, genuine concern for others and for humans. So not to see, realizing when we learn how to just be careful of the shadow aspect of that and not to give up too much of yourself in the way that you don't, tend to care of yourself as well, right? So we have to be careful, right? Not to over give when you compromise yourself when,
yeah.
But yeah.
I know we're running out of time. I just have 2 more questions. Balance is a question that I get asked about all the time. How do you balance your life and work and family and fitness? And, my answer to that is, it's very difficult to balance every day. But I do sort of look at my life like one would look at the stock market. I sort of take quarterly assessments and I look and see, is there something that's really sacrificed here? Have I overcompensated for a specific thing? Am I spending too much time in this area? I don't do that on a daily basis because I think it's detrimental to mental health to judge yourself on a daily. But I do think it's a good practice, every few months to sort of look at where you're at and see. And so that's how I tend to answer the balance question. But I would ask you, like, how do you balance, your life? Do you balance your life? Or is it just something because of your spiritual journey that sort of just evened itself out and you don't even really think about it much anymore?
Yeah, no, it's very one of the first assessments when somebody works with me, on a coaching level with the 6-month coaching, I send them out a harmony wheel, and the harmony wheel is just such a great tool to use where we're assessing the components in our life, whether it's career, relationship, family, our spiritual practice, all of those components. And then it can be really surprising because even someone who thinks they're like super healthy and they're doing everything right and whatever, we see that like, oh my God, like career might be, for me, even recently, I realized like I was focusing so much on my career and then not like, my primary relationship was like, I was not even looking at that, let's say, or whatever. And it needed some course correcting. But I would say on a whole, the way that I live is with awareness, which it really always comes back to like making sure you're not so busy that you don't have that awareness and you're not feeling into like, am I spending enough time on my self-care, where I'm devoting so much time to like my body and my fitness and so on and so forth. And have I, really looked at my primary relationship in the way that it needs more attention, maybe, so that's why meditating to me is so important, because it gives me that opportunity to like pause and to contemplate and to have awareness around, making sure that my life is not perfectly balanced, because I don't even know if that's possible, but to feel into that and to have that awareness around, if things are feeling more aligned, I like the word aligned. Alignment is, a key word with what I do. It's bringing people into alignment through the integrative life system.
This is just such a great podcast. I honestly, I'm so fired up because I feel like myself and others are now sort of given tasks to try a few things that you shared with us, and also to come check out your stuff. Can you tell us where we could find you and all the ways in which we can engage?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm my website is thejoyfulapproach.com, and there's just a ton on there, lots of information. I have the anthology which has tons of articles and features. I think you would enjoy a lot of those interviews because you're an athlete, and there is a lot of stuff in there about holistic lifestyle, also athletes, coaches, and experts in the fitness world, but all holistic, and then esoteric and so on. But also I offer these virtual courses that just recently were launched on the methodology of the joyful approach, which have there's the core, assessing our core values, releasing negative energy, just a lot of different lessons. And each bundle actually has an activation and a meditation and a video, guidance as well. So those are really beneficial because it's kind of like, accessing my work through these video tutorials and lessons. And, I would say subscribe to my newsletter. I announce these events that you can have access to, and, I'm always coming up with new offerings and stuff. So, yeah.
Awesome. And then on social media?
Yeah, The Joyful Approach. Instagram. Cool. I don't really go on Facebook. I'm not really, it's just like, there's only so much I can do.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Joy, this was incredible, and I can't wait to start. I'm going to start tomorrow. I'm going to start, and I promise that I'm going to do it. I'm going to start meditating. So I have my morning routine is it's been the same for a long time.
Oh, I would love to hear about it. Would you share what your morning? I'm obsessed with like the morning routine. Yeah. I'm really curious.
So my morning routine is I wake up at somewhere between 5:15 and 5:30 every day. I tend to always wake up before the sun. And the first thing I do as soon as I realize that I'm awake is I smile for 15 seconds. So it's literally the first thing I do every single morning. I smile from ear to ear. I do it like a showing my teeth smile like that. And I do it specifically like that because ultimately what it does is I immediately feel positivity. And then sometimes when I'm smiling ear to ear, teeth out, it gets a laugh out of me. And so laughing out loud first thing in the morning for me has been something that I've just implemented into my programming. And because we all wake up, like you said, with anxiety. So I attack it right away. And so I do that. I smile for 15 seconds, ear to ear. Then I go into the bathroom. I'm kind of a regimented, structured guy. So I splash water on my face 3 times. And then I put on my contacts, I brush my teeth, and then I get on my knees and I have a morning prayer that I say every single morning. Lasts about 3 minutes. I pray for a long list of people, the good and the bad. And then I do 25 to 50 push-ups based on how I'm feeling. I walk back into my bedroom if my wife is awake. I will kiss her. And typically if she's awake means the kids are awake, and I kiss them. And then I'll make the bed, go downstairs. And then I have a planner journal that I write in every morning just to kick the day off. And while I'm doing that, I'm sipping on a little pre-workout or a coffee, and then I go right into the gym. So I'm in the gym most days by 6 a.m. and I work out for about an hour and a half to 2 hours, come out, take a shower, and then I have the same exact breakfast every morning. I'm actually launching a business on around that specific breakfast. And then I get my day going. And, by 9 a.m., I've accomplished more than, all my friends.
Yes, we call it like dinner time. Like 9 o'clock is like dinner because I'm also up at like 5, and by 9 it's like, oh, I can't, yeah. So that's awesome. Wow, super inspiring. I love it.
Oh, I believe in these wins. I believe in little wins, and like winning can be running the marathon. Winning can be winning an award. Winning can be hugging your wife or husband. Winning can be waking up early in the morning. Winning can be putting the right things into your body. Winning is all those things. And I think people don't understand that or don't believe the fact that you can win all day long every single day. And that is the solution to mental health for me, the ability to win. And you can control those. You can control the wins. There's so much in this world that we simply cannot control. 99.9% of everything that happens, 99.9% of, or 100% of the way other people think, what they do, but we can control our response to life and what we instill, the habits that we actually implement into our lives really do determine who we are. And so I'm so grateful that you've introduced a couple of things that I am going to implement into my life. I mean, I'm going to try. The 5 minutes in the morning is it's a no-brainer. If you're telling me, and I believe you, that 5 minutes of breathing in the morning that will ultimately potentially grow to 10 and 20 can really change my perspective. Like, how can I not do that?
Yeah. And I just wanted to share one more thing. The diaphragmatic breath is also the most efficient for athletes as well, because what you're doing is you're circulating your body and oxygenating your blood, your blood. So it's wonderful. And it's also known to be really helpful for preventing injuries as well, especially the back. Yeah. So. Yeah.
Well, this has been great. I cannot thank you enough. Everybody, you must go check out Joy's stuff. I'm sure after listening to this podcast, you're fired up and you're going to try to implement some of the stuff that she's given us here. Thank you very, very much. I'd love to come on your podcast and we can.
Yes, I can't wait to have you. I cannot wait. I have a million questions for you.
Awesome. Well, Joy, thank you. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe. And keep inspiring us because we need more of you.
It was such a pleasure and an honor. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. That was so good.
Yay.